What would you like us to do when it comes to Ukraine and Russia? Let's start there. What would be your vision? What would you promote if you're sitting in the White House?
So number one, we need to stop blocking the peace process, which is, as you've said, that's what we've done from even, let alone that we expanded east, that NATO expanded east, even knowing full well that that was going to blow up in our faces. We oversaw the placement of nuclear compatible missiles on Russia's border, and currently in Poland, and this is what Russia's worried about in Ukraine, is that there will be more nuclear missiles on its border. Well, what did we do when Russia did that in Cuba? We were ready to go to nuclear war, but we had the good sense back then because we had leadership that wasn't brain dead, and they were capable of backing down. But we don't have leadership right now. We shouldn't be going to the brink here, and where that's even necessary. So we have been instigating this war forever. And remember, that's when full spectrum dominance was declared as our military policy, was right after the breakup of the Soviet Union. And we said no power will ever be allowed to dominate even their region. So, at that time shortly thereafter, we began expanding to the east, and we were messing with Russia's elections. You may recall what happened under Clinton, where we were massively interfering in Russian elections and all that. So, even aside from interfering with many countries' elections and overthrowing many governments, we really hold the record on doing that. And just as an aside, the Congressional Research Service has come up with a number of times that we have sent our troops into other countries. In the last 30 years, that's 250. So we have this just madness for a foreign policy based on economic and military domination. This is not working. The world is pushing back in a big way. So Ukraine, in so many words, it solves itself if we will just get out of the way. But, I think we want to see this wind down with as little loss of life as possible. And, there was just a statement from the former German Prime Minister, Gerhard Schroeder, I think. And now that joins with the statement of the former Israeli Prime Minister. And they were all part of this peace process. And a high-ranking Ukrainian official in their current government has also validated this, that there was a peace plan where Russia compromised. Russia was ready to dialogue about about all aspects of the deal. People who, the current administration, they say, oh no, you can't dialogue with Russia. They're hell bent on, imperial aims. That's not true. There's no evidence of that. And Russia has actually signed on to the peace agreement as recently as March, when we disrupted it. So we need to get out of the way. We need to proceed with a peace plan along the lines of what was agreed upon in March, where the eastern provinces of Ukraine would have some autonomy, where Ukraine would agree to be neutral, like Austria agreed to be neutral after the Second World War. That works fine. And that's all Russia actually was asking for even before their invasion occurred. So this could have been solved from the get-go. And then Crimea, Russia agreed actually in March of 2021, I think it was, to negotiate the future status of Crimea. So all contentious issues were going to be taken care of. This isn't rocket science. This is just a matter of the world bully getting out of the way and allowing the peace process to move forward. And it's a tragedy that Ukraine has lost so many people, hundreds of thousands that have either been killed or seriously wounded. Lots of people have moved out. This has just been a war fought to the last Ukrainian. What for? What for? What real purpose was served here? Really nothing. That's outrageous. So I think Ukraine solves itself. And
can I ask you, before you move on to Israel, but with what are your thoughts on NATO? There have been some candidates and previous presidents who've called for the disband, just to get rid of NATO. We don't need NATO anymore. What are your thoughts on NATO?
So I think that Europe should have a separate security institution that is not based on military power, especially on military power from the U.S. And Europe needs its structure, and that shouldn't be based on raw military power. NATO was created to supposedly contain the threat of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore, and Russia is a small economy. Just the money that we have spent on arming Ukraine, that
Mm-hmm.
100 billion, now it's a little bit more than that, but that alone, just the money we're spending on Ukraine, exceeds the size of the entire Russian military budget. So Russia is not a threat to
Right.
us, and especially if it's plugged into the broader European community. Russia had sought, after the breakup of the Soviet Union, Russia had sought to be integrated into the European community and even into NATO. But we wanted to basically drive Russia down. So we weren't about to allow any peace process to take place and any collaboration. So it's nuts. Yes, I think NATO has become really an arm of U.S. misguided, aggressive foreign policy. It's become a way to do an end run around the United Nations with a group of countries that we basically dictate to. So yeah, I think NATO is a big problem, and
Yeah.
Europe would be much better off with its own security organization.
Yeah, I agree. We should I think it should be dismantled. We could start over. We could create new security agreements if we want, maybe with our own neighbors over here in North America, if that's what we so choose. But NATO does seem to be antiquated and counterproductive at this point, making things less safe, it seems, than safer.